All right, beginning our day, I had the pleasure to be able to actually contacted Ajahn Sri Panyo to see if about getting hold of Ajahn Sek. I assumed he was spending the Vasa at his very remote monastery of Manam Noi, but actually he's in Yasotan, so he's more contactable, he's more closer to his mother. He's spending Vasa with Ajahn Pon, who is the Wat Pah Pong monk who fell off the scaffolding and broke his neck a few years back and needs constant care. And so Ajahn Sek is actually spending the Vasa with him. So actually, when I contacted Ajahn Siri this morning, he was actually with Ajahn Sangwon and Ajahn Sek at a funeral of a lay supporter from Daodam, and they were all together. And so it was nice. I got to speak with Ajahn Sek, and then he passes on his greetings to everybody. He asked about each individual, said to pass on his metta and his greetings to everybody. So it was, just nice to talk with him. And then he was asking about my back pain, and I said, it's really fading now. It really seems like it's going away. And he's like, oh yeah, some people have that. It just lasts for years. And it's like, I've had something similar to that. And it just seems like it's something that's common for people. So I think the fact that there's a hornet's nest under one of the decks at Casa Serena, that could be a good Dhamma analogy, in that it won't sting you if you don't interact with it. If you don't pick it up, if you don't go too close to it, then those hornets can just abide peacefully with people. I have actually a few bald-faced hornets that come to my kuti every day. In the evening time, they come and they bang on the windows. They kind of run themselves into the windows. They do it every night. And they do it in the morning as well. And so there must be some sort of bald-faced hornet nest nearby. But they're very non-aggressive. I don't know if anybody here has ever been stung by one. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But I have seen them. So when you're on these 2-week retreats, so right now, Tanrakito and Tantisaro on their 2-week retreat, and I'll be on the next slot along with Tanhemiko and Linda. And usually when I eat up at my kuti, I start to notice these insects more, like their patterns. And a lot of times when I eat at my kuti, the yellow jackets will start to come and try to get some of the food. They, especially if there's any little bits of meat in the bowl, the yellow jackets get drawn to that. And I found sometimes I'd be feeling quite peaceful on my retreat, and I would just let the yellow jackets land on me. And there was sometimes when the yellow jackets would actually start to try to eat me, but they wouldn't sting me. They would just their little clawed beaks would start kind of pulling, and they would be thinking I was just a big piece of meat, which I am. And, and then they would start trying to pull off a bit and eat it. So I'd kind of brush them away, but they wouldn't sting. And then I would find that giving them water would make them more docile, so I'd put out a little tray and they would come and drink water in the heat of the day, and they'd be a lot calmer when I would give them water, or kind of flick a little piece of meat or something out of the bowl if there was any in there, and they would go for that and break it up and carry it away. But then as the yellow jackets are doing their thing, I would watch the bald-faced hornets kind of hovering around, and they weren't interested in anything I had in my bowl. But then I watched a bald-faced hornet catch a yellow jacket midair, bite its head off, and carry it away. So the yellow jackets are more dangerous to humans, and people do get stung by them once in a while. But then the bald-faced hornets are less dangerous to humans, but more dangerous to yellow jackets. So nature is just very fascinating, very interesting. So having them around, just if we're able to watch these things and observe them, then they don't really do any harm to us. They only do harm to us when, I remember going to a restaurant one time in the Santa Cruz area, and there was some yellow jackets around. It was outdoor seating, and of course in a restaurant, a public area, they have these nests, or these yellow jacket killer traps that will attract them and they'll kill them. And then I watched a yellow jacket kind of flying around at this restaurant, and because I'm trained to just I'm used to being around yellow jackets in the forest, and I think they're normal, and I'm not afraid of them, even though if I get stung, I will have a bit of an allergic reaction to it, but I don't find them threatening. But then your average person in this restaurant, it was just one yellow jacket kind of flying around, and this person sitting next to us took the menu and was like, kind of like trying to swat at it and yelling and kind of getting up. It was a different reaction. And then that's the kind of person who's going to get stung by the yellow jacket. If you fight with it, it'll fight back. And I found the same thing with ants. Like if you do battle with them, they'll do battle with you. But if you just leave them be, they just leave you be. We can coexist with these things, with these insects in the forest. And ants are very interesting, actually, because they'll seem to take over a kuti, but if you just leave them, they're really just kind of scouting. And I found sometimes even just that mental intention to be able to coexist with them, it makes them calm down, and then they just move on. So that's certainly not always the case. But then I found that when we do battle with the ants and try to do all sorts of deterrence, and then they just keep kind of pushing and they keep coming. And then you can maybe keep them at bay, but then it's constant work and you have to keep that battle going. So just to stop and let go of that resistance and just relax into just peaceful coexistence with nature. And if an insect is crawling on you, it's not really going to harm you unless you try to harm it. And it's really the same with the forest animals. They tend to mirror what our mental state is, and they mirror it right away. So like whether it's a mountain lion or a fox or a bear, then they'll tend to mirror whatever mental state we're in. But we have the power to put that initial mental state in place. So we don't have to be mirroring what state they're in. We have the power to, as human beings, we can give rise to a wholesome mental state and we can be safe. And the moment we feel fear, that animal is suddenly on guard and it feels fear. So we actually can peacefully coexist with these things. And it's a big part of our teaching as forest monastics. It's a big part of our life, just learning from nature in this way. It was also the time I was on retreat. It was not the last winter retreat, but I believe it was the one before. It might have been the last one. Yeah, it was actually last year. This year, beginning of this year. Maybe it was last year, I can't remember. But being outside and camping out in March and starting to get warm, and then the ants starting to come out of the ground. And the kind of, I had a mat set out on the ground, and I noticed that the ants started walking over this mat. So I just kind of picked the mat up and beat it off, moved the mat, hung it up, and just the ants then made their trail. But then at night they went back underground. So the next day it was a little bit warmer, and I didn't think they would come out so early, but I was sitting on the same spot and started having my meal out in the forest. And I wasn't really looking for ants or anything because I wasn't expecting them, but I looked over and it was the river of ants was halfway up my body, and it was just, I was in their pathway, so they were just kind of trying to go up and over me. And these ants, they do bite. They're a little bit painful when they bite. So I looked over and there was just like a flood of ants coming up. So I just took a rag and was kind of gently beating them off, and then they started moving around. They were all about to where like they were about to go over my head, and then they kind of paused, just kind of like gently kind of beating them off with this rag, and then they turned around and they went down and then they went around me. So they just didn't know I was just in their pathway. Just there's a lump in the pathway. We just have to go over it. It's not that they're trying to be intentionally aggressive or anything. So peaceful coexistence with the forest. This is always a good reflection.